Kenya, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm great. I love doing this. If you haven't noticed, very excited, and I'm really pleased with the fact that you've managed to join us because, boy, have you got some stories to share. But first of all, congratulations! Your Alien Earth just got made #1 in streaming, didn't it?
Yeah, it's doing very well. Thankfully, I've dedicated over a year to that launch, so I'm happy that it's being well received.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan. Although I just saw a post yesterday from Mashable saying, "Do not watch episode 5 while having dinner."
Yeah, there are probably a few episodes you probably shouldn't be eating when you're enjoying the content itself, but
Yeah.
for fans of aliens or fans of the sci-fi genre, I think it's a win. So we're excited.
Oh, it is. It is. Well, look, I'd love to. Obviously, we go through a bit of a journey. This, but first of all, we love to spend a couple of minutes on you as a human being and your story, and and also again, another celebration is just how long you've been at FX. So, would you mind kind of sharing your background and your journey through FX as well, please?
Sure. So I started my career in children's entertainment. My first opportunity was at the Jim Henson Company, which was amazing. I grew up with the Muppets. I had an opportunity to work within that organization and began to apply my skills in the marketing world, dabbled in home entertainment, learned about promotions, which really, was something I grew a lot of interest in, a little bit of events. And then from there, I segued into a company called Deke. People might recognize that from the end of Inspector Gadget, the little, Deke. So that's usually when people say, "Oh, I know that. It was in Inspector Gadget." So in the licensing world, again, focusing on children's entertainment, I became a brand manager on the Strawberry Shortcake brand. And essentially, I had been revisiting all my childhood favorites and making them part of my job. But I started to realize that the perks of working in children's entertainment were not necessarily exciting for a 26-year-old who's getting free tickets to Sesame Street Live. And I said, maybe I should work in a different area of entertainment where I might enjoy some of the perks a little more. And I was a huge fan of Nip Tuck at the time, which was an original series.
Yes. Love.
FX. I think it was the third original series they had. And so I applied for the opportunity, 19 years ago, and I was fortunate enough that they brought me on board. And so since then, I've been able to really be a fan of the content, a viewer of the content, and be able to apply my skills to projects that I really enjoy and appeal to me both as a professional as a consumer.
What makes FX so unique? What has kept your energy going for, did you say 19 years?
Yes, it's been a while. It's been an amazing journey. I think, one of the things that brought me to FX is the same thing that keeps me here. It's a brand that's really focused on quality, and creating prestige content and creating content that is really a rich story, unexpected content, not necessarily some of the formulaic stuff that had been, far more popular at the time. I love being able to read a script or catch one of our shows and not really know where it's going to take me and being surprised, and that's the thing that has kept it interesting for me. I am constantly creating, campaigns to support brand new projects because every show is unique and different from the last. I've learned about motorcycle gangs and the world of, ancient Japan, and I've learned about science fiction, and I've learned about blockchains and detectives. I mean, there's just so many rich, interesting worlds that FX brings to life that I've been able to make part of my experience, and learning how to bring those to life and experiences, and through engagements has really been a rich experience that I'm grateful for because it keeps it fresh and exciting for me. And as a person who likes change, when it comes to my content and my meals, this has really worked well for me. In my area, I oversee experiential partnerships and consumer events. So a lot of what I do is in the non-traditional space, and a lot of it is building engagements that build upon certain themes, elements, and storylines that are featured in the show. So it's important for me to be able to, in the real world, create experiences that allow our audiences to sample the shows. So I have to build worlds that allow them to immerse themselves into what they're going to see on the shows. Well, I definitely think some of those shifts that we've seen have led us to be mindful of that. Has led us to be more um, aware and seeking out more of the social listening to hear what the response has been. To pose those questions to guests on site when they're at an activation, to have those exit interviews, engage them, to really see what the feedback is, to give us an opportunity to understand what's working, what's not working, what storylines or messages might be resonating, which ones might be getting lost. It's really helpful for us. And sometimes, it's just a nice pat on the back, like, wow, this is really hitting exactly as we had intended. So I think it's really beneficial for us. And because we want to make sure that we're delivering ultimate fan experiences, especially for a show like Alien Earth, it's really key to our strategy to make sure we have those checks and balances in place.
I must admit that is one of the reasons, I've been in marketing for 30 years, but I chose events and live experiences as my speciality for exactly that reason. What does work and, what's kind of changed over time? Could you elaborate a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things about being in the space that I'm in is that there's definitely a continued focus on the conversation, right? And I think one of the key elements of culture is connection. That is really the way that you create culture, have moments that impact culture, and really speak truly and authentically to an audience. So much like a mass approach with a media campaign, it all has its place. Definitely, we have some amazing media campaigns and an amazing media team who's done some awesome things from 3D billboards in Times Square all the way down to, if the show calls for it, urinal cake advertising, because sometimes that's the best way to get people. But, the area that I'm in is really focusing on connection and making that connection, and a lot of times that starts at a more grassroots level. We do events of all sizes, but really the ones that allow us to dial in directly to the audience we're reaching, to be part of the community that they might be part of, to speak to them in spaces where they're at naturally has been the most beneficial, especially for some shows that are rooted in a very specific community. Shows like Pose, for instance, or Atlanta or Snowfall. Those are times when we realize that the most impactful thing we can do is to come into a community, have those conversations, and strike up that conversation in order to promote a show.
So, how do you keep the fans engaged between those series? Is that something that you guys do, or how does that work?
Yeah, and so I think part of what I was speaking to previously about coming into communities to highlight or support a show
Yeah.
and starting those conversations, it needs to continue, right?
Yeah.
Because if I come in to launch season 1 and I come into the spaces where you're at and I speak to you in the language in which you speak and I engage around the things that are of interest to you, and then I disappear and I don't come back again until I'm launching, you're going to be less interested in welcoming me into those spaces. So the things that we like to do are things that allow us to continue and have a beat in those communities and those places where we've made some headway to maintain that traction. And those can be things as easy as um, communication, ongoing communication. Those can be outreach, collaborating with local community partners through social good initiatives. Those could be reaching out to key tastemakers, but that could be a matter of inviting key tastemakers, influencers, and content creators from those areas to other activations and events outside the show we initially engaged them around. So, those different ways that we will use to make sure that we continue to keep ourselves connected with those audiences that we work really hard to authentically attract.
Saying you've kind of really got to treat these individuals and these communities like real human beings and show you're adding to their lives rather than, I suppose, taking advantage.
Yeah, definitely treat them like real human beings. But, I think you have to be intentional with your efforts. And I think that you need to recognize also that um, you need to be as open and receptive to hearing as you are to sharing. And I think a lot of times we get very focused as marketers on distributing our message. We have something to tell you. We want you to be aware. We want you to acknowledge you've heard what we've said, but they're not as open to listening. And I think, excuse me, a lot of times when we do outreach and we start these conversations, we spend a lot of time listening. And we spend a lot of time being receptive to what we're hearing and the feedback we're getting, and we are mindful of that. It's definitely a challenge to try to make promises in these spaces, but I think that listening goes a long way.
How do you make these partnerships? How do you just said about going into local communities and then brand partnerships and stuff like that. That's an endless list. So, you know, what's you know, what makes it sticky and what makes it a good loyal partnership for you?
Well, I think we look at finding collaborators who allow us to get and reach a like-minded audience off of our own platforms. So there could also be an audience that I'm coveting that I feel a particular partner might have that I can gain access to. And I think the important thing, though, that I always make sure that I'm focused on is creating an experience with whoever we're working with that is beneficial to both parties. I think, in my early years and many can get a little tripped up with this idea of like, I have an agenda and I'm coming in and I need you to help me succeed in what I'm trying to accomplish. And I think it's about, again, having that conversation about what are your goals in this partnership, and here are my goals. And ultimately, I want to come to my audience and your audience with something that is meaningful, powerful, and interesting and unique. And how can we do that? Biggest factor that we deal with when it comes to collaborations is time. It takes time to find a right partner to put together these offers. If you're going to create any unique products, things that need to go into production, you're dealing with some time constraints. So I think that there is a focus for us on what are the ways that we can create something and give the illusion of a larger partnership, or an illusion of something that might have been many many months in the making when we're putting things together in a much shorter frame of time frame. I think it definitely takes some creativity, but I do feel like it's important, and we've been able to successfully pull off some interesting things that pull in and curate existing product that, is then curated under, a theme. We've been able to do things that are focused on, bringing in our audiences for events, which are much easier to pull off in a shorter time frame. So I would say the number one thing that I'm focused on is building a narrative that really helps to guide our programs and serves as a guardrail for us to make sure we're staying focused on what our end goals are.
Oh, so what are you reading? What's shaped your thinking, Kenya?
Well, lately I've been reading some books that have been really amazing, but they've been a little heavy. So I just finished Broken Country, which was an amazing book. I'm in the middle of Bright Young Women.
What are you listening to? Do you do podcasts, playlists, that sort of things?
I most often do audiobooks. I have a large commute, living in Los Angeles, so I'm most often listening to a book, uh, on the ride.
Okay, okay, cool. And then do you have a quote or a mantra that you've seen or that you have in the back of your head? Anything like that?
I mean, I think it's not exactly a quote, but I think kind of the idea that I kind of try to live by is this idea of something is scary that I have to do it. Right? If something feels daunting to me, or I worry about how I would ever accomplish it, I know that that's the thing that I need to focus on next. That's the thing that's gonna.
But thanks, Kenya. It's been awesome.
Of course, thank you so much. It's great to be with you.
Okay, see you soon. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye.